Good morning and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this morning. This is all about the Wilfried Nancy story, and the story so far about the next Celtic manager. I think it's looking like he will be the next Celtic manager without any complete collapse in talks. But let's talk about how he became the next Celtic manager and the story of a strange decision made a few years ago. Wilfried Nancy is the MLS most talented coach, amid speculation about him getting the US manager's role last year. Yes, there was talk about him getting the USA national manager's coach job. The rise has been meteoric. It was unexpected by himself. He was pushed into the limelight after Thierry Henry left his position as head coach of CF Montreal in 2021. Wilfried Nancy has now burst onto the scene in Major League Soccer, from assistant coach under the Frenchman to now widely being considered as the most talented manager in the MLS. Nancy has climbed the domestic table to the top in just 3 years. In 2 seasons with the Canadian side, Nancy took his team to the heights that they've been unable to replicate since he left the club, which is quite impressive, it must be said. Since his departure in 2023, that campaign, last year was the breakout for Columbus. He led Columbus Crew to an MLS Cup victory in his first year within the Eastern Conference sides. He followed it up in 2024 with a trip to the CONCACAF Champions Cup final. That's the North American equivalent to the Champions League. People said that the manager he's done nothing in the game, but that was a phenomenal rise from the rookie manager, as a lot of people are calling him. He'd been appointed a successor, a potential successor to the United States of America coach over the last year. He said, look, I'm happy to have the national team link. I think it could be interesting to the country to do something. But I'm coach of Columbus Crew, he said at the time. His coaching philosophy, personal growth, his mentor, Thierry Henry. I don't know how that will go with Irish fans though, because we've got bad memories of Thierry Henry going into goal. So maybe don't mention Thierry Henry too much if you do come to Celtic, mate. Just a wee heads up. You're maybe watching this on your flight coming over from America to France at this very moment. You've maybe already landed in France and you're just checking out whatever's getting said online. Don't mention Thierry Henry. It's a real bit of a sore point with a lot of the Irish fans, to be honest. It's big bad point. But anyway, his personal growth has led to him being linked to the US men's national coaching role. The early beginnings in Nancy, he worked obviously with Thierry Henry at CF Montreal for just under 3 years, but the relationship began nearly 2 decades ago in France in the late 1990s. At the time, he was a teenager playing for Toulon, while Henry was a young star in the making at Monaco. Paths crossed quickly and they quickly bonded. They've been friends ever since. I think I was about 17-year-old when I first met Thierry Henry. And all these people saying that he's no contacts in the game. The friendship began and continued throughout the years. And then we ultimately reunited as a coaching staff duo in Canada. Nancy recalls it was like they'd never spent a day apart. He's a competitive guy, talking about the manager Thierry Henry. He has a competitive spirit. He's amazing. He's obviously had a clear idea of the way that he wants to play. It's something that we also have in common. Understanding in Thierry Henry's ideology and the way his brain worked on the touchline, Nancy believes that was key to developing him as a manager. I like to learn from everyone, he says. You see people and you think how they act and how they react, because I can adjust and take things. He doesn't have the same personality as Thierry Henry, but to be able to pick the brain cells of someone who was so successful throughout his career, and it's something that I was able to do with my time in Montreal going into the job in America. Now, when he was asked about the job in America, he said, look, it was weird. Just a few days ago, I was talking with Thierry Henry, and he says, let's be honest, I was talking about action. He's going to tell me briefly. If you remember 1982, Spain, after 82 minutes, a player created a chance. And what are you talking about, said Nancy? He says, it's laughable. He says, you double down the facts. He says, anything can happen. He says that he admires Thierry Henry's footballing brain and his knowledge. He has a really good memory. And that's what he hopes to bring to his football career as a manager. Without that influence of Thierry Henry, he says that the former Barcelona ace taught him much about the touchline. His biggest takeaway was how to step back, be present, and appreciate the moment. And that's what he does for his life. He says, when I went to Canada, I never thought much about going into management. When I took over, that was the journey to becoming champions in that job. This is why I do this job. I try to challenge my players. I try to support them. Unlike the previous manager that threw them under the bus, Nancy's learned to separate football from life. And as a manager, he's relying on that sentiment to his team. He said, look, you need to, and that's quite a good thing. Don't read the media and stuff like that. He's consistently messaged his players about how precious life is. Appreciate the moment. Realising that each day is a new day and an opportunity to succeed. That's a fucking brilliant mindset if he brings that to Celtic. Do you know, is just... We know the situation at Celtic. We know that we're going to have a manager that's going to come in and he's going to spend big in the next window. And that he'll have to bring players in that know that they won't be at Celtic forever. But if he can get them into the mindset of just enjoying the journey at Celtic, enjoying every single moment of their time at Celtic, getting the best out of them, being successful, I think it could be a fantastic appointment. He says support comes in many forms. I strive to teach lessons, to bring unity to the team and to align the squad with a common goal. In terms of trying to become a better person and a better player, he says that's what I like about all my players. I like them to embrace it. I want them to take ownership, hit the ground running, and improve as players. Having been linked with the national coach in America last summer, he said, look, for me it is all about the here and now. I was 47 at that point. I'm talking to you as the MSL All-Star game in Columbus. I never planned to be at Columbus. Never, he said. He says, I'm going to be honest with you. I started to travel when I was assistant coach at Montreal. I told my wife, Columbus? I'm not too sure about that. Because I didn't know the city and so on. But now we love the city. In Montreal, Nancy met his wife, who is Canadian, he met her there. Switching gears to the new life in America was the biggest gamble of his career, he said. It was the biggest gamble of his career. It's interesting. He went in with the idea of what can I do better? What's the definition of success? What's my behaviour against the challenges going to face? That's why I'm limitless. It's that simple, he said. Limitless. I love the fact that he thinks that there's nothing can stand in his way. You can always overcome anything. Well, he's going to have a lot of objections to overcome with Celtic fans when he does become Celtic manager. He's going to have a lot of objections when it comes to the media, because we've been through this before as Celtic fans. He says, in fact, around his early career when he was 24 years old, he had nothing in terms of money. I was without a job at one point. I got screwed by an agent. I was supposed to sign for a team in England that didn't make it. You know, it was one of those things. He says these things can ultimately affect your mindset going forward as a human being. And you could think that that's it. You're never going to achieve anything within your lifespan. But he has. He's turned it around. And he's shown that both sides of his life, both his football and his personal life, it's all about embracing the moments. Embracing the moments. And he says, football, or as soccer as the Americans call it, has seen him had a rapid rise to his coaching career. Last year, a year ago or so, when he was only 47, he says, I'm Columbus coach, and that is it. I remember why I started this job. I'm really proud of that. It's an interesting insight into the Columbus Crew manager and the fact that he's went on to achieve so much in a short period of time. A lot of people talking about the fact that he is not an experienced manager. Anyone that can take a team and change them the way that he did at Montreal, take Columbus Crew to the final of the CONCACAF Cup, he's not a silly manager. To then be linked with the national coach role at United States level, you know. And Celtic fans were crying out for a certain coach who's in charge of Portugal. And look how that worked out for him the other night against Ireland. And I just hope that he has the success, and I hope that he has the backing of the Celtic management. And I think that they will know that they need to bring in a manager. Ultimately, they need to bring in a manager that can navigate European success. Whatever that European success looks like, whether it be just qualifying for the Champions League through a qualification game, whether it's getting to the later stages of the Europa. If he comes in this week as is expected, it's been suggested that the photograph that was taken was him on his way to France, something that he does at the end of every season. And I think that his CV, although as short as it is a bit better than Scott Brown's. It's a bit better than Neil Lennon's when he got the manager, and it's definitely a bit better than Ronnie Dyler's when he got the manager. Is this Celtic going through a period of managed decline? Well, the next transfer window will tell us that or not. I think that the way that the Celtic board are looking at this, they know that they need to get in a manager that has the potential that no one's really heard about. Just the same as what Ange Postecoglou did. He came in and he turned everything around at Celtic. The Celtic board know that they're facing a lot of stick from the Celtic fan base. The Celtic fans collective are having a daily ongoing campaign right up until next Friday for the AGM. And at the AGM, they're going to try and have their say to get people unvoted off the board. That will be the last time in the next year that they'll be able to put as much pressure on the Celtic board as possible. Dermot Desmond will know that if we can bring in a manager and steal the headlines and determine what's been spoken about, to deflect from as much, it's talk to the hand because the face ain't listening shit. It's as simple as that. They will know that if they can control the narrative when it comes to the chat around Celtic, the way forward, the way forward, the potential players incoming, the big talk of investment in the next transfer window, they will know that will quietly to try and nullify the fans. There is a war going on between Celtic fans, a certain section of Celtic fans, not all Celtic fans, I acknowledge that. There is big chat about him bringing a lot of his staff over from Columbus Crew also. It'll be interesting if that happens. So, tell me your thoughts in the comments section, and I'll notice the big man himself, certain Chris Sutton has been talking about it. He says that Wilfried Nancy will soon see the Celtic limitations brutally exposed. Don't dare give me that Ange chat, says Chris Sutton. Chris Sutton talking about it in his article this morning. And then he goes to say that, look, I know that Nancy and Postecoglou are very different managers. You have to look at what he's done in his career as a manager. And for people to be so negative about someone that could take a team, an unfancied team, to the CONCACAF Cup final, to lose the game, I think it was 3-2, they lost the game in the final. Do you know, it's not a bad thing. If he takes us to just if he just manages to turn this Europa League campaign around, if he manages to turn it around even a little bit, if he turns it around just even a little bit, I think that we'll see the fruits of his labour when it comes to qualifying for the Champions League next season. This is why Celtic have brought the manager in now. I see some comments, people saying, why didn't we just wait and bring in someone else? They've already spoken to those other people. Celtic have spent the last week speaking to the agents of Kudson, speaking to the agents of McKenna, speaking to the people that have all been mentioned within the bookies as potentials to becoming the next Celtic manager. And it all comes down to one thing, and one thing only, is timing. Timing and potential. McKenna's done nothing in the game, considered when you look at the two CVs side by side. McKenna got relegated from the English Premier League. He got promoted into the English Premier League. He got relegated from the English Premier League. I think when the Celtic hierarchy are looking at the fact that he got this team to the CONCACAF Cup final, and people will say, well, it's not the Champions League, is it? Well, it's the North America, it's the American version of the Champions League. And for them to do that, Celtic will go, right, that's the man. It's as simple. That's the man to get in. Because if we can back him, if he can do that in America, and if he can do what he did in Montreal, it'll be interesting to get Alistair Johnston's take on him. Austin Trusty spoke about the fact that he's spoken to some of the American guys, and they've been talking about it. And he basically said, look, it's nothing to do with me. It's all chat. It's way above my pay grade. That's all I'm going to say. I think that it has the potential to be a good appointment. As long as he's backed. Because we all know that this board, and I think that this is the ace up the sleeve. This is the ace up the sleeve that the Celtic board will use over the coming days when he is potentially given the manager's job, even though he does look like Craig David. We can all sit and have a laugh about things, and the reality of the situation is it's looking like he's on a flight to France late last night, as he does every end of pre-season. Every end of the season, sorry. And if he lands down in Paris, it could be a sneaky way for him to get on either the fast train from Paris or just a quick flight hopping over. We'll wait and see. I'm sure Celtic will make an announcement on Monday or Tuesday regarding the situation. Hopefully, if talks have went to plan. So tell me what you think about the fact that he has done what he's done in the game. Do you think that he will be a success? Do you think that the Celtic board will back Wilfried Nancy to the extent that we need? I think that we've already said, I've said before that it was even announced that Wilfried Nancy was going to be the next manager. I expect Celtic to bring in a minimum of between 6 and 8 players in the next transfer window. And that's not even taking into consideration the players that will leave. Dyson Maeda, you need a replacement for him straight away. We don't have a replacement for Dyson Maeda. I don't care about who we've got in the team just now. We need another player that is potentially better, if not to the same level of Dyson Maeda. So anyway, right, let's jump into some of the comments. It is that time of day. Whatever happened to when the new board come in, wanting to bring our own manager? What's the first new manager on the board? Well, the Celtic fans don't get a choice in that. The Celtic, I'm going to lay it on the line to you, is that there will be no significant changes after the AGM next Friday. There will be absolutely no significant changes at boardroom level. And that's me just being honest. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry. But someone needs to get us to wake up and smell the coffee when it comes to this board. They're not going to go anywhere. We don't have the voting power to be able to get rid of the board. Never mind trying to sack the board and then get some new board members in. That could take months and years to happen. It's not going to happen at this AGM. If I was a betting man, I'd go out and stick £100 on the exact same people being in charge of Celtic on Saturday morning. In fact, Friday afternoon. That's the way that I would see it. There's no way that anyone will leave this board, whether we like it or not. It's a wake up and smell the coffee moment, and the board will use this. The PR machine will roll out. They'll take control of the narrative of the way forward. They'll put out lots of good news stories about what this guy is going to achieve and what he wants to achieve, and his rise to stardom in the game in America. They'll talk about his past and how he's played in French football, and he'll speak about connections within the game. He'll speak about the way that he wants to play, the fast attacking football that he plays. It's a very, very, very big move for him and his family. But Alistair Johnston, and here's the interesting part. A couple of weeks ago, Alistair Johnston was asked about staying at Celtic for the rest of his career. And he said that, look, you never know what's going to happen in football. He said, but if I'm doing something right at Celtic, and to be given the opportunity to stay at Celtic for the end of the career. People were talking about last night about Liam Scales being the next Celtic captain. I think that if anyone's going to be the next Celtic captain, there's more chance of it being our little Canadian. When you put the Montreal connection together, it's all written in the stars. It is all written in the stars. But we'll wait and see. He'll achieve hee-haw unless he's backed by the board. Every manager's backed by the board. Every manager's backed by the board. You cannot say that there's not been one manager that hasn't been backed by the board. Brother Wilfried must be given full autonomy and properly backed for the fresh young board for us to reach our full potential. You're not going to get a new new board. So, despite the increased pressure this week, and if people don't like what I'm saying, it's fact that this board will still be in place on Friday afternoon. There's going to be no change. We can keep the sustained pressure on, but then you've got to ask, what will then Celtic do to try and change the narrative and make sure that they control the narrative? I've already said that I think a potential ban for the Green Brigade section will come next. And that's how bad this board are. I think that they will try and close down the section for the remainder of the Celtic Green Brigade ban. They've already had one game ban at Celtic Park. They've been banned from away games. I think that if they go to the next away game, if they turn up at the next away game because they've got tickets from other fans, Celtic will close down the bottom half of the North Curve for the next coming home game. Mark my words on it. It's the way that they've done it before, and it's the way that they'll do it again. So anyway, I'd love to see Alistair Johnston's captain as well. Feels like he loves the club and the fans. Yeah, he does that. I think we'll go at the end of the season. I'm not even going to make predictions about the board anymore. It is what it is. This story will run and run and run. As much as we all want change at the club, the powers that be at the club will see it as this little monumental change that is about to happen at Celtic. And this isn't just going to be... You remember, we now need a new head of scouting. if Nancy brings in his own man as head of scouting from America, there's going to be fundamental changes in the way that Celtic is run going forward. Absolutely fundamental changes, and I think it can only be for the better. Martin, the CEO, to appease fans. I think that could. I've been a big advocate for that. In order for this guy to succeed, the board have to go, says Football Life. Mr. Negativity every morning. I'm going to stop reading your comments, mate. It's just negative every day. Negative. Anyway, that is me done and dusted for this morning. If you haven't seen the beginning, you need to go back and watch it and learn a little bit about Wilfried Nancy and his rise to the top in management in America. On that day, have an absolutely fantastic day, Celtic fans, wherever you are, all around the world.